Member for Edmonton Jasper, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Environment Week is everyone's concern in this province. I'm here to introduce a group of friends of the North who've come to the Legislative Assembly today to indicate their concern over clean water in the province. I'd like Randy Lawrence, Betty Pichan, Dale Anderson, Doris Ann Barnes, and Kim Franklin to please rise and receive the welcome of the Assembly.
Member for Lloydminster.
It's my pleasure today, Mr. Speaker, to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly 66 students from the Holy Rosary High School. Mr. Ray Politiski, and they are seated. And I would ask them to rise and receive the traditional welcome of the Assembly.
Minister of Culture, Multiculturalism.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce, or perhaps reintroduce to you, and through you the rest of the members of the House, John Batuk, the former MLA for Vegreville, who is now serving as the chairman of the Ukrainian Cultural Heritage Village Advisory Board, helping Albertans relive their cultural heritage and preserving this important part of our past. He's seated in your gallery. I'd ask him to rise and receive the warm welcome of his former third colleague.
Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to be able to introduce to members of the Assembly 12 grade 6 students from the Oliver School in Edmonton Centre. They're social studies students who are here with their teachers Sharon Fitzsimmons and Normand Journeau. I'd ask that they please stand in the members' gallery and receive the traditional warm welcome.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Mr. Speaker, to the Premier. Mr. Speaker, as indicated yesterday, the federal budget, we believe, is disastrous to Albertans for many different reasons. But specifically today, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to talk about, I think, the Premier being rather dishonest in the Stettler by-election when he talked about the established program financing, that those cuts would only cost Alberta Treasury some $20 million, Mr. Speaker. The Canadian Association of University Teachers has figured out in a much different way, Mr. Speaker, and they have indicated through a lot of figuring that this would actually cost Albertans over $300 million in the next 5 years. My question, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, didn't the Premier know the truth about these figures, or was he deliberately trying to mislead the people of Alberta at the time?
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, and I quote Beauchene, 489.
Still the point of order at the end. Mr. Premier.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition should know, if he doesn't know, that I was referring to the first year of the impact of the budget. People can make estimates out into the future further than that, but I felt the first year was the one that could be predicted with most accuracy, and that was the one that was used.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my point to the Premier, is this not very misleading? Because the last time they had a cut was a 2% indexation that started off at $30 million, and now it's up to $200 million. Why was the Premier not telling the full truth about this at the time? And more importantly, why wasn't he standing up to the federal government fighting this, because it's going to hurt us in our budget in the future?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition knows that there are various impacts on a province from a federal budget. In some cases, the federal government is taking moves to hold down the debt on a national basis. That would have a positive impact. In other areas, if they are reducing their transfer payments, that can cause us problems. But all in all, Mr. Speaker, we believe that the federal government has to tackle their huge deficit problem, and we are not going to go into a particular battle with Ottawa when they try and make moves to do that.
Mr. Speaker, this is a deficit that we're going to have. The provincial treasurer is going to be dealing with our deficit. And is the Premier saying then that it's okay for the federal government to reduce its deficit and cause increases in our deficit, that he's not prepared to fight for that? And is it the reality when it's going to happen? Is it going to be more tax increases in average families and cutbacks in people services because of it? That's what's going to happen. Why doesn't he tell the truth?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think there are three questions that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition asked, and the answers are no, no, and no.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to designate the second question, the member from Edmonton Jasper Place.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of the Environment. Earlier this afternoon, I witnessed the spectacle of the minister berating a group of friends of the North because they had the temerity to interrupt the minister's media event. Not only did he end up walking out of his own photo opportunity, but he ended up accusing them of everything from wrecking the spirit of cooperation to destruction of community pride. I think he can dish it out, but he doesn't seem to be able to take it. I want to know if the minister, how can the minister speak of a spirit of cooperation when his government is about to give away the northern Alberta forests, to allow construction of 7 pulp mills, and not allow Albertans a proper say in the matter? Where do you get off?
Mr. Speaker, first of all, Albertans will get their proper say in a very, very true and democratic fashion, and in a very, very fair way, and long before the next election, which is going to be a long time from now, I would hope. Mr. Speaker, relative to the situation this afternoon, there was a contest, and perhaps someone will allude to that later on. And it was a very friendly event, and it wasn't a media event per se. And during that particular contest, I was presented with some glasses of effluent from the Procter & Gamble pulp mill at Grand Prairie. And some controversy and some discussion evolved with the people there, and I thought that it was entirely unfair that they would use an entirely friendly event to make a point in a very, very brash and I would say shabby manner. After meeting with the Friends of the Wapiti just a little bit more than a week ago, and discussing with those people how we can pursue the environmental impact assessment process in a reasonable fashion, in a friendly fashion, after getting their understanding that they would work with me and my department to make sure that what is done relative to that pulp mill is done right. After all that, to have this group disrupt a friendly event, a community event, I think was downright shabby.
Thank you, Your Honor. Supplementary question, succinct supplementary.
Well, the minister likes dialogue as long as the news media aren't there, if it can be. I want to know if the minister thinks the process is so good, will he answer this? Why is there no study of the combined impact of 7 pulp mills, no consideration of alternative development proposals, no opportunity for citizens outside the area to hold meetings, and no...
Honourable member, thank you. You're now on to 3 supplementaries. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there will be ample opportunity for the citizens to participate in these projects. As I said in the House yesterday, the process has been extended to establish a Citizens Advisory Review Board that conduct its business in any way it sees fit. And I think that that is a fair process. In addition to that, we will be discussing with the federal government ways to enhance that program and perhaps involve their participation. I think that that is a fair way to go. I think that reasonable discussion with those who have concerns over the pulp mills is the right way to go, and a reasonable review of the EIA process is the right way to go. If the opposition wants me to accept simply what they want or they think that we ought to do, then I simply can't buy that, because I'm not so sure that they're right even half the times.
Okay. Thank you, Honourable Minister. Thank you. Order, please. Final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, I received a copy of a letter written to the Minister by Jody McElligott, who resigned her position as the chair of the
Honourable Member, order, please. Just get the question out. This is supplementary. I know.
It's like a slot machine. You put a nickel in, you get everything out. I want to know.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Now, the members had enough time to get the question. Let's go.
When is the minister going to quit with the insulting nonsense that it's just the opposition concerned about this, when he knows that the ever-changing process is unsatisfying to everyone who lives in the North?
It will be changed, Mr. Speaker, when we have completed a thorough, reasonable, honest review of the situation with good, honest consultation with the people involved, not those who happen to be politically motivated.
Leader of the Liberal Party.
Mr. Speaker, all Canadians had to have been awestruck by the reports that we've heard and seen from China, particularly with respect to the courage shown by the students in China. Nothing could have been more overcoming than to see one individual holding back a whole string of tanks. There are many students in Canada, Mr. Speaker, who have also been courageous, students from China who have shown courage in condemning that which has happened in China. We believe that action has perhaps put them in some jeopardy. The federal governments in the United States and in our own country have taken action to extend visas. My question to the Premier, Mr. Speaker, is this. Would the Premier be prepared to contact all of the universities in Alberta to determine if there are any students who have had this extension of their visas and who are in financial difficulty in terms of student assistance? Is he prepared to contact them and to see if some arrangements can be made by our province giving them that kind of assistance?
Mr. Speaker, certainly a reasonable suggestion that the government would consider, although I must caution the honourable member that we will want to make sure that we don't intrude into federal areas of responsibility.
So I take it that the Premier will do that, Mr. Speaker. I understand the answer that he gave. My second question is this. I suspect that there will be a number of students, Chinese students in Alberta, who may wish to receive political refugee status. There is some influence that the provincial government can give to the federal government in this regard. Would the Premier be prepared to give that kind of assistance to those students who wish to seek landed immigrant status in Alberta and in Canada?
Mr. Speaker, the government of Alberta would want to treat all those who request refugee status in an even-handed way.
Well, I'm going to ask that the question be answered, Mr. Speaker. That's not an answer, and I respect...
Order, please, Honourable Member. Order, please. Under Beauchesne, that's an inappropriate request. Next supplementary, please.
Well, I'm going to ask, Mr. Speaker, that the question be answered in the clearest, simplest way.
Again, the same thing holds, honourable members, so that if the member has another question on the supplementary, the chair will allow it. It's under section 416 in Beauchesne.
Mr. Speaker, in the event that landed immigrant status is given to Chinese students, is the Premier prepared to give additional support, not in the form of student assistance, but in terms of settlement, much in the same way as our government gave settlement assistance to people from Vietnam after that conflict?
Mr. Speaker, it's far too early to judge what assistance the government of Alberta will be able to provide on a longer-term basis.
Okay. The appropriate section as it relates to this recent discussion is section 416 in Beauchesne, which reads in part, insistence on an answer is out of order with no debate being allowed. Chair recognizes the member for Grand Prairie, followed by Edmonton Centre, then Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Environment. I'd like to make reference to his visit to Grand Prairie on May the 27th, at which time he visited our forests, the pulp mill, and the Wapiti River, and also met with representatives of the South Peace Environmental Association. He made certain commitments on that date, and my question is with respect to his commitment on establishing a review process for the review of the examination of the environment, specifically as it applies to the Grand Prairie Forest. Has there made any progress on that review process?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the meeting with the Friends of the Wapiti, I think, was a very productive meeting. It lasted about an hour, and there was agreement that we would indeed involve that group in the environmental impact process review, and we would receive from them their input relative to the review and the kinds of things that they think that should be incorporated into the review process. We also discussed the question of licensing, and that is the licensing of the mill that is now in operation and whether those procedures are being carried out properly. I have given them a commitment that indeed they will have the opportunity to become involved in the licensing process, to review that process and to become involved with my department, and I think that that is the fair way to go, to work in a spirit of cooperation rather than confrontation, so unlike the situation that occurred, unfortunately, this afternoon.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Minister if he's established a time frame for either of these commitments.
The time frame, Mr. Speaker, will certainly be before the EIA process begins, and I've asked my department to get in touch with the Friends of the Wapiti to begin some meaningful discussion as to how they can become involved. So, in fact, the process has begun.
Final. Thank you. Member for Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the leader of the New Democrats has already pointed out, this government cannot be trusted to stand up for Albertans in the face of federal budget cuts, particularly the reduction in the rate of funding by the federal Conservatives to hospital and health services here in Alberta. With an already stretched provincial health budget, this Conservative Minister of Health here just sits back while the Wilson budget seeks to reduce $192 million to be transferred for the future health of Albertans. Why has the minister remained so passively silent on this issue, proving that she too cannot be trusted to stand up to her friend Wilson and Mulroney when the future health of Albertans is at stake?
I haven't, Mr. Speaker.
Haven't done anything. That's right.
It's really nice to get these one-word answers. It's a real opportunity to explain how she's made representations to a number of people at federal levels, and we would like to hear those answers, Mr. Speaker. Will the minister make today a claim that she will point out to the federal officials, Michael Wilson, Brian Mulroney, even Perrin Beatty, that it is just unfair to Albertans that in the first year of budget cuts, it would mean, for instance, saying goodbye to the air ambulance service here in the province, to the Lethbridge Regional Lab, or at the $3 million would mean a complete reduction of the province's funding.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, funding the needed health programs within this province is not dependent upon the federal government solely. We take very important steps, one of which will be our budget on Thursday night, but to jump to those conclusions is patently wrong.
We just get such equivocation, Mr. Speaker. Seems to me that the health care of Albertans is that slot machine again.
That's right.
Maybe they should move to Prince Edward Island and to Summerside and see how people stand up.
Order, please, honourable member. Perhaps now we can have the question.
Well, has the minister determined the impact on Albertans of the $192 million reduction over 5 years, and that would in fact mean the closure of 4 auxiliary hospitals, 3 regional hospitals, de-insuring eye care, physiotherapy care, and chiropractic services. Those are the kinds of impacts of the...
Thank you, Minister. That's good.
Mr. Speaker, the established program financing were originally designed to be fully indexed to the gross national product, and that was the commitment that was originally given the province. In 1986, the federal government moved to have that indexing factor decreased by 2%, and by their recent budget have de-indexed that by another 1% as a total of 3%. Before the actions were taken by the federal government, the Canada Health Ministers, of which I was a part, met with the finance ministers to discuss the impact of that issue on provincial budgets, and certainly registered our clear collective as well as our individual concern about the effect on health programs. However, in Alberta, we have always taken the position that the funding of health programs is a very important priority of our government, and despite those reductions, Alberta's support per capita for health in our province remains the highest in Canada, a record of which I'm very proud.
That's the truth.
Edmonton Meadowlark, followed by Calgary Milliken, Calgary Forest Lawn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to return to the Minister's public relations event, to the Minister of Environment's public relations event today called the Great Alberta Water Challenge. Earlier in question period, he stated that this demonstration of concerned citizens from the north was uncalled for because he personally assured us that their concerns will be met.
At the St. Louis.
What are the minister's assurances worth, Mr. Speaker, when we hear him talk about high dioxin standards, which Dayashawa simply doesn't have to meet, when we hear him talk about the need for new environmental impact assessment legislation, which he simply won't be introducing this session of the legislature, and when he makes a commitment to delay Alberta Pacific's public meetings and he simply can't deliver on that commitment? What are those assurances worth, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, those assurances are worth the spirit of good-thinking people entering into negotiations to refine the EIA process as it needs to be refined. And as I explained to the honourable member in the House yesterday, that no permits will be issued. No permits will be issued, and I'll say it one more time, no permits will be issued until all the environmental concerns have been met. And it's as clear as that.
Mr. Speaker, does the minister simply not understand that these people, these friends of the North, would not be forced to demonstrate in the makeshift fashion that they had to demonstrate in today if they had assurances from this minister specifically laid out in legislation that there would be public hearings for them to participate in?
Well, Mr. Speaker, first of all, I take exception with the makeshift fashion. I think it was a well-orchestrated display. Well-orchestrated display with members of the opposition gleefully standing behind And Mr. Speaker, what I'm trying to get across here is that the best way to resolve the issue and to ensure that the issue is fair and well thought out is to seek the cooperation in a non-confrontational manner of those people who are concerned, and that's what I'm attempting to do. And if changes are needed, changes indeed, Mr. Speaker, will come about.
Talk, media relations. Will the minister please tell us when he is going to replace his public relations style with substantive action like implementing proper environmental impact legislation in this legislature approved by the members of this legislature?
First of all, Mr. Speaker, I will never replace my public relations style because I think public relations is very, very important in business communication. for the third time, the process will be changed after we have had meaningful discussion with those people who really want to see things brought about in a reasonable fashion that will address not only sustained economic development, but will address environmental concerns as well.
Calgary Milliken, followed by Calgary Forest Lawn, Edmonton Gold.
Mr. Speaker, for the past few decades, the Salvation Army has provided aid and comfort for the needy in the province. And in Calgary, the Salvation Army has the Parkwood Home, which provides aid and comfort to the unwed mothers, single mothers. They're taught birthing skills, how to care for their infants, birthing, prenatal, postnatal service. Unfortunately, recently, Salvation Army has announced plans to close down this wonderful facility due to a lack of funds. Could the Honourable Minister of Family and Social Services please advise the Assembly if he or his department have contacted the Salvation Army and see if there is a way we can salvage this service, this wonderful service in Calgary.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is quite right in making reference to the good work that's being done by the Salvation Army down in Calgary and indeed throughout the province. And I would also want to make note of the appreciation that I have for the work that the Salvation Army is doing in Calgary. I've had the opportunity of attending a number of functions there with the Salvation Army already. And I would want to say that as it relates to Parkwood House, I've certainly had presentations made by a number of my colleagues here in the Assembly on their behalf. I would only want to say that the decision to close down Parkwood House at the end of this month was a decision made by the Salvation Army, and I can only state that the funding commitment of this government as it relates to that facility has not changed at all in the last 6 months.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker. This closing will leave a gap, a service not provided. Could the Minister please advise if he and his department will be taking on staff or making sure that a similar service is available for the unwed mothers in Calgary?
Mr. Speaker, there are a number of programs that are being offered in the city of Calgary that are certainly in part meeting the needs that the member has referred to. But I'd want to say that I have initiated discussions myself with Major Jolly of the Salvation Army, and she has advised me that from their perspective, the facility that was being utilized to offer this particular program was perhaps oversized. That is to say, it's a 35-bed facility. As I understand it, it's now down to a utilization factor of about 8 to 10 beds. So they've made the decision to turn it over to the Grace Hospital, and we certainly support them in that decision. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, again, I have had preliminary discussions with Major Jolly and indicated that certainly I would be prepared to work with her to see if we can't find a more adequately sized facility to meet the former service being provided by Parkwood House.
Final supplement. Mr. Speaker, could the Honourable Minister please advise the Assembly, though, if he and his department are doing everything in their power to keep these volunteer agencies, such as the Salvation Army and many others, keep them operating, and not let it slide into the big bureaucracy, the faceless bureaucrats of slowly taking on the jobs where the volunteers used to do.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the member makes a very good point when he makes reference to the volunteers that play such an important role in the delivery of services here in the province of Alberta. I will certainly undertake to continue our commitment to work with groups like the Salvation Army. I'm very happy with the arrangements that we've been able to make as it relates to Children's Village, as it relates to the Man's Hostel in Calgary, and I can only say that this government as a whole recognizes the very important role that volunteers play in this province, and I know that quite recently the minister responsible for the Wild Rose Foundation had helped to initiate a volunteer awareness week, and I think that again in part speaks to the appreciation that we have for the thousands and millions of hours of volunteers that go into making this province a better province to live in. So yes, Mr. Speaker, we'll continue along in that spirit.
Calgary Forest Lawn. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In spite of higher than anticipated oil prices, drilling activity has fallen off substantially, with fewer than a third as many rigs drilling this year as were drilling a year ago. Drilling and service companies are particularly hard hit, as well as small towns and communities of oil-field Alberta. And it's the policies of this government and their federal cousins in Ottawa that are responsible for this appalling situation. Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Energy, what consultations, if any, took place between the Minister or his government and their federal counterparts prior to the cancellation of the Canadian Exploration and Development Incentive Program in April 27th federal budget and the consequent loss of $80 million in federal government funds?
Mr. Speaker, since I've been the Minister of Energy, I have met with many of the organizations and representatives, I believe some 60 to 70 different individuals in the industry, and I can say that the issue of the cancellation of the CDIP program has come up, and it is of concern to me. I have, as recently as this week, Mr. Speaker, sent a communication to the Honourable Jacob. I expressed to him the concerns passed on to me by the industry for the termination of the CDIP program. I find it regrettable that it was committed to the end of the year, and the federal budget decided to have it terminated at an early date. I will be meeting with the Minister Jacob next week, along with the Minister of Saskatchewan in Weyburn, and at that time I will again reiterate my concerns with regard to the CDIP program.
Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, given that there will be a second reading and vote on the bill to cancel CDIP tonight in the House of Commons, and given that Ross Harvey is the only Alberta MP who has thus far stood up for Alberta in this matter, what efforts will the government make to get Alberta Conservative members of Parliament to vote against this damaging bill on second and subsequent readings?
I'm going to take Scott out by... Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Energy has just given the honourable member an answer regarding his input into the decision, and as far as the members of Parliament, this government's not responsible for it.
Outrageous. Final supplementary, back to the Minister of Energy. What other action is the Minister contemplating to restore some health to the energy industry? Is he, for example, contemplating extending the Alberta royalty holiday?
Well, I'll do more than bark in this assembly, Mr. Speaker, and I have communicated along to Jacob, along with my concerns about CDIP. I've expressed a concern to him about the high interest rate policy of the Central Bank of Canada, or the Bank of Central Canada. I'm not quite sure which it is these days, Mr. Speaker. We have a real concern about that interest rate policy and how it affects investment in this province. I took the opportunity to visit New York, Mr. Speaker, looking for opportunities of equity investment in this industry, and it is a concern of investors that the high interest rate policy does affect adversely this industry. I must say that the cash flows of these companies today, Mr. Speaker, are very good, particularly in the context of the last couple of years. It's the problem with the reinvestment has to do with the interest rate policy. I'm glad to see that finally, after an election campaign, the opposition is on side on the interest issue. If they have a concern, why don't they talk to their MPs, Mr. Speaker, instead of bringing up in this House like we do?
Okay. Member for Edmonton Gold Bar, followed by Edmonton Highlands and Smoky River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, we've just experienced another tragedy in our province, Mr. Speaker. Along with the town of Grand Cache, everybody in this House mourns the death of Wayne Moberly. He hanged himself in a boarding home last week. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, that this young man has spent most of the last of his 16 years being shuffled from one foster home to another, 8 of them in 7 years. Certainly all the indicators were there, all the red flags that this youngster desperately needed help of a different kind. The red flags were there for administrators, for caregivers, for social workers. It's clear, Mr. Speaker, that our present system isn't geared to deal with some of the very special needs of certain high-risk children. My question is to the Minister of Family and Community Services. Can the Minister please inform the House whether social services staff involved in this case have specific training in identifying and intervening in potential suicide situations involving teenagers. Is there a special care team, Mr. Minister, and if not, why not?
Mr. Speaker, as the member mentioned, it was a very tragic situation in Grand Cache, and anytime a 17-year-old boy takes his own life, it's a tragic situation, and yes, this minister is concerned. I'd want to correct a couple of points that the member opposite did make in reference to the movement of this young man. She made reference to 8 facilities. In actuality, this child was in 3 foster homes. He was also in a placement center and a receiving home and spent time with several family members. In this particular instance, there was at least 2 exhaustive and very complete professional assessments done on this individual. And from my total review of the situation in Grand Cache, I'm satisfied that it was handled properly.
Mr. Speaker, the fact is that the young man hanged himself, regardless of how many homes he was in. Last year, Mr. Speaker, we made much of the fact that 37 new child welfare workers were added to improve the service. Obviously, it hasn't made any difference. Will the minister undertake a complete and independent investigation of this incident, the report of which should be made public, to see if we can reorganize the system to prevent such tragedies?
Mr. Speaker, we began an internal review the moment the department was notified of this particular situation. Again, I'm satisfied that in this instance, every effort was made to handle this particular case properly. I don't think that there'd be any purpose in making it public at this time, so no, I don't think that would be appropriate.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the minister's answer, but it certainly does nothing to give confidence to the public. The public does want to know what the results are. This case has certain grave similarities to the Richard Cardinal case of a few years ago, and nothing has happened since that one. Will the minister himself now undertake to this House that he will meet with child welfare experts, including Native and Métis community leaders, to intervene personally? Will the minister intervene personally in how we can make our system relevant to these needs of special high-risk children?
Mr. Speaker, again, in this particular instance, I'm satisfied that every humanly possible step and process was taken. This young man was placed into loving and caring foster homes. He received total support from our Grand Cache office. The Native community was consulted on an ongoing basis. He was placed in Native placements as it relates to his foster homes. He received ongoing counseling from a professional in Grand Cache. I'm satisfied that we as a department, that we as a government, that the foster parents involved, that the caregivers involved did everything humanly possible to help this young man make his way back into society in a meaningful way. We're sorry that it didn't turn out the way that we would like it to have. It is a tragic situation, but I'm satisfied that we did everything that we could, and I don't think that you can ask us to do anything more than that.
Edmonton Highlands, followed by Smoky River, followed by Edmonton Avonmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to return to a subject that we talked about a few days ago, which is the bait-and-switch throne speeches. Throne speech A, February 17th, that talks about an $80 million endowment fund for post-secondary institutions, and the bait-and-switch one, B, that drops the reference. And I'd like to, the sequel, thank you. I'd like to ask the Premier just how it is that he can justify his government somehow promising to the public in an official throne speech in February a big-ticket item like this major endowment program, and then strangely taking it away in the switched throne speech just 10 weeks later.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I guess you'll indulge the honourable member and allow her to ask a question that's already been dealt with in the legislature in this session, because I'll draw again to her attention, as I did to her honourable leader of the opposition when he raised the same question, that my government will reaffirm the legislative and budgetary policies for the priorities and programs outlined at the opening of the fourth session of the 21st legislature on February the 17th, 1989, and so strongly endorsed by Albertans.
Just read. 4%.
I can hardly wait till he tries to get out of the next one, Mr. Speaker. So how is it then? No, that's cute, but how is it that the minister can say, or the premier can say, we're going to live up to our commitments when the April 1st deadline already got passed, Mr. Premier? You missed the date. Are you going to do it?
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Advanced Education announced that program well in advance.
Well, final supplementary question then to the Premier, who seems not to understand the issue is bait and switch doesn't work. The public's onto you. Is the Premier ready to disclose the rest of the empty promises that were contained in this one that are now removed from this one and the implications that that will have for Albertans?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I understand the member of the opposition wanting to try and find fault with either the throne speech, and being unable to do so, then tries to continue to ask the same question. I'm sorry, but the throne speech is there. The February the 17th throne speech stands, as does the June the 1st. This government lives up to its commitments.
Smoky River. Smoky River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is addressed to the Honourable Minister of Agriculture. And my question deals with a very significant industry to all of Alberta, and that is the honey industry. Since the honey capital of Canada is in Falher in the Smoky River constituency, we've had a very high winter kill rate in our bee industry this past year, Mr. Speaker. And I would like to ask the Minister if indeed there has been any work done realizing that this is importation of bees is under federal jurisdiction. Has there been any discussions involved, or has there been any work done at all to assist this very distressful situation to the beekeepers in Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, I might say that Alberta Agriculture is very aware of the problems in the Peace River region, and that we have been working in support of the beekeepers of that area and in support of groups like the Northern Alberta Development Council to encourage the federal minister to open the Hawaiian borders to clean, disease-free, inspected queen bees.
Supplementary. With honey prices being depressed, has there been any effort made by the department to assist in the stabilization of honey prices in Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, we signed the National Tripartite Agreement about 2-3 weeks ago. 5 provinces are now participating. It's retroactive to June of 1988, and most honey producers should be getting a payout.
My final supplementary is to the Minister as well, and that is with the increased incidence of the tracheal mite throughout Alberta and all of Canada, has some thought been given to perhaps provide some funding through the Farming for the Future program to perhaps start a study for the tracheal mite and help alleviate the difficult situation that we have developing not only Alberta but all of Canada?
Mr. Speaker, we've been monitoring that problem rather closely, and I will take under representation the honourable member's suggestion that we maybe look at Farming for the Future research funds.
Thank you. Edmonton Avonmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the February 17th throne speech, the government promised to address the issue of homemakers' pensions, but this commitment was absent from the June 1st throne speech, and the minister confirmed that her department does not have time to implement a study. On June 2nd in this legislature, the Premier committed his government to a study on homemakers' pensions. My question is to the Premier. Who are the women of Alberta to believe, the Premier or the Minister responsible for Women's Affairs?
Mr. Speaker, we work as a team. And Mr. Speaker, as I advised the honourable member earlier in the House. The government has made that commitment and will carry it out.
Thank you. In view of the fact that the February throne speech, the government linked homemaker pensions with the review of pensions for women over the age of 55, can we take this as an indication that the government has finally recognized that its widow's pension plan is discriminatory and unfair to single and divorced women and must be changed?
Mr. Speaker, no.
Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, on what basis does he continue this ongoing discrimination on the basis of marital status alone?
Mr. Speaker, one of the interesting parts of the review with the people of Alberta will be to see their views on this very matter.
Member for Rocky Mountain House, followed by Westlock Sturgeon.
Speaker, in the past, a group of entrepreneurs have been harvesting some 500-year-old ice from the Cline River Glacier. This area, of course, is in the eastern slopes and is designated as prime protection area in the Nordic Red Deer River Integrated Resource Management Plan. My question is to the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife. Did this group have a permit from your department to operate in this area?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary also to the Ministry of Forestry, Land and Wildlife, what are the terms of the permit, the time frame of it, and any restrictions that might be on the permit?
Mr. Speaker, it's correct. It is in a prime protection zone, and the zoning in a prime protection zone certainly allows this kind of activity. We made their activities there extremely restrictive. In fact, the restrictions and operating conditions were made sure there was no environmental impact and no hazard whatsoever to the safety hazard to the public. As well, we made sure that the way in and out of the site had to be by helicopter over a specifically designed route to make sure that no wildlife would be impacted in any way, shape, or form, and that all the activities would be done in a very safe manner, Mr. Speaker.
Time for question period has expired. Might we have unanimous consent to finish this series of questions and to allow the Minister of Health to respond to questions raised earlier by Calgary McKnight? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Rocky Mountain House, final supplementary.
Final supplementary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of the Environment, did this group have a permit from the Department of Environment?
Mr. Speaker, it's my understanding that there was a permit of sorts issued to mine a small quantity of ice, and I understand that there has been a reapplication for a much larger operation, which certainly would come under the Water Resources Act. That license or the application is now being held, and we're asking for public objections. After those objections are received, the department, in concert with myself, will decide what route will have to be taken, and perhaps it will involve an environmental impact assessment.
Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, last Friday, the acting Minister of Health took a question as noticed from the honourable member for Calgary McKnight with respect to health services in Athabasca and the increased need for these services as a result of the Alberta Pacific Project. I can advise the honourable member that with respect to acute care facilities, all members of the Assembly should realize that a new hospital was completed in Athabasca in 1984. It was constructed for 50 beds and currently has 42 beds open, so there is in fact capacity within the existing hospital to expand services. Secondly, with respect to community health services, the Athabasca Health Unit is currently assessing their anticipated needs based on the new population projections, and I anticipate receiving this assessment by the end of this month.
Member for Calgary McKnight, supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Minister.
My supplementary question is, will the minister commit to this assembly that a process will be put in place to identify any possible negative health effects of these developments and to monitor public health in affected areas to ensure that any negative impacts are identified and dealt with?
Well, certainly, Mr. Speaker, the linkage between our health and our environment is a very important linkage and one which all members share in the concern. I can advise the honourable member that through the public health process, a lot of those linkages are in place, and we're looking at ways and means to strengthen those initiatives, and I thank her for her representation.
Thank you. Point of order, Minister of Advanced Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rose during a question being put by the Leader of the Official Opposition to the Honourable Premier and raised a matter of Beauchesne 489, Beauchesne 490, and Beauchesne 492 with regard to unparliamentary language, Mr. Speaker. I simply rose to draw it to your attention, and in addition I would make reference to our own standing orders which take priority in this House. Standing Order 23I, I do think and would think it's appropriate if the Honourable Member would withdraw his comment regarding dishonesty to the Honourable Premier.
Leader of the Opposition.
I thought I was being rather gentle explaining what went on, but I notice that there are differences. Sometimes it's real parliamentary in 490, sometimes it isn't. But if it bothers the honourable member, I'll figure out a different word to use next time, Mr. Speaker. So if that's the case, I'd be glad to withdraw it.
Yes. Possibly a point of order, but Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on, with respect to Standing Order 15 and more particularly subsection 5 of that order, and it relates to a statement given out by the Honourable Minister responsible for occupational health and safety and workers' compensation to the press yesterday. It only came to my attention moments ago. The statement indicates certain information that has been divulged by the Honourable Member, the Honourable Minister, with respect to settlements and payments. And this is the part that I think is particularly bothersome, and looking at the definition of parliamentary privilege with respect to the effect it has on the House collectively. We heard from an Honourable Minister yesterday, Mr. Speaker, that members of this House are bound to maintain, to be mindful, vigilant of the laws of this province. Part of the laws of this province in the Workmen's Compensation Act call for information which is known to the Workmen's Compensation Board to remain confidential. That the Minister, under my interpretation, my reading of the Act, is an officer of the Workmen's Compensation in the Workmen's Compensation area. He has the same responsibility as the people working in that board.
Order, please, Honourable Member. The Chair notes that the member is raising a potential point of privilege under Standing Order 15. That has now taken place. The Chair would then direct the Honourable Member to look at Standing Order 15, subsection 2. A member wishing to raise a question of privilege shall give written notice containing a brief statement of the question to the Speaker, and if practicable to any person whose conduct may be called in question at least 2 hours before the opening of sitting. I wonder if the Honourable Member then would be good enough that, having given notice now, would then prepare the necessary formal notice tomorrow and have the exchange, the copy also given to the appropriate minister, so that we might then deal with it at another occasion.
I wonder if you, sir, have looked at Beauchesne, where it indicates that the Speaker can entertain. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that given the circumstances that it has just come to the members' attention just in this short while, that if we could follow through with this in terms of the next day, the Chair would be most appreciative. Thank you. Orders of the day. Might we revert briefly to the introduction of